Tensions remain high in Los Angeles as demonstrators took to the streets for a fourth straight day, protesting a controversial series of immigration raids and the Trump administration's hardline approach when it came to enforcement. The situation escalated significantly this week when Trump ordered the deployment of the National Guard, a move that quickly sparked political backlash. The state of California is now suing the federal government, arguing that the president's decision to send in troops was made without the state's consent. Adding fuel to fire, a senior White House advisor publicly suggested the possibility of arresting state officials, including the governor, over the protests. Now, Trump has since expressed support for those remarks, intensifying an already heated clash between federal and state leadership. The Pentagon is also deploying 700 Marines, and many view this display of military force as a dramatic and symbolic moment. What some are calling the showdown the White House has been waiting for. Well, those were the words of the governor. Let's get in now the big questions that we are posing on the show. First up, is this the new normal as far as the Trump administration is concerned in dealing with the illegal immigration issue? Will courts be the final arbitrator? Because California governor has questioned the legality of Trump administration's decision to deploy the National Guard, because that comes under the governor's purview. So will the courts be the final arbitrator here? And lastly, is this now a state versus federal government issue? Is this now what it's turning out to be, a state versus federal government issue, which is where the buck really needs to now be decided? Also comes in a year ahead of the midterm polls, which is what Trump administration would be eyeing. Glenn Carle as well as Ray Locker joins me more on this. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me on the show. Let me start with you, Mr. Carle. The fact is there are several legs to it. There is the political aspect to it, the security aspect to it, the messaging aspect to it. I'm going to try and cover as much ground as possible. But Mr. Carle, where do you stand on those very dramatic visuals that came in of a first world country looking every bit third world?
Well, America is not a stranger to demonstrations and sometimes violent ones. So from that extremely narrow perspective, I'm not especially alarmed. But this is, I think, a far more alarming situation for the country, for the United States, for American democracy, than even those who are concerned about the issue and focused on it understand. Immigration is the proximate issue, and it's an important one. And I agree with how you framed this, that the Trump administration is setting this up to be able to carry out its deportation policies related to illegal immigrants. But the issue is really much larger, and as you noted, the issue between state authority and federal, Washington authority, is fundamental to how American democracy functions. And the Trump administration has been setting this up quite clearly to carry out its policies that are called the unitary theory of executive power, which really undermines the foundations of American democracy. So this is an historical significant issue, and the states can appeal to the courts, but the federal government is pushing to control the power, and that is a critical issue.
Ray, comment on the other aspect, which is that a lot of people feel that this is essentially now a blue versus red political fight, and immigrants, illegal, are just caught in the crossfire.
Well, I think that's a part of it. I mean, look, we've had illegal immigration in California and the rest of the country for decades now. It's always been that way. California runs on illegal immigrants. I mean, they do many of the jobs that Americans don't want to do. So that's nothing new. This is a power grab by Trump. A deliberate provocation. They sent people in to do raids at places where they know the illegal immigrants congregate, like in Home Depot parking lots. And then they rousted them and they caused trouble. And now they've set up this provocation to justify bringing in the Marine Corps, who are totally not needed. Neither is the National Guard. And on the demonstrator side, the smartest thing they could do is quit burning cars and get out of there and quit waving Mexican flags. They're a deliberate provocation to the people who have been brought in. And that can diffuse a lot of this. But Trump wanted this. He's wanted this for a long time. As you can see, he's saying all sorts of crazy stuff about, arresting Gavin Newsom. He has no call to do that. And so this is part of his continued power grab. We've seen it since January 20th. And, they want to push it as far as they can go.
Okay. Mr. Carle, then let me also now ask about the other aspect, which is the security aspect of it. Some of these unprecedented visuals is the reason why the Trump administration has justified, whether it's the Marines, whether it's the National Guard. Is this the new normal now in America, and irrespective of which government is in power?
Well, I would say it is the new normal, which is hideous, but I would disagree fundamentally and quite strongly with your last phrase, which was that irrespective of who was in power. Not at all. This is all directly linked to Donald Trump and now the Republican Party. And that is not a partisan statement. That is simply an objective summary of what has happened, in fact, for the past decade, frankly, for the past 40 years, but especially during the Trump era, which from 2015 on, let's say. So new normal, this is a clear, there is a clear, coherent, cogent, and focused drive by the ideological leaders or thinkers in the Trump administration, the Republican Party, to centralize power in the chief executive. And that is fundamentally un-American and anti-constitutional. It implies the end of the American system of government. That is not an overstatement. If you can ignore clear laws of historical duration concerning the use of military force against American citizens, then you really have cast aside the Constitution and centralized power in the White House, which is the explicit objective of this administration. And it's in Project 2025. It has been stated. I struggled against this just as one among many federal officials 20 years ago under the Bush administration. The theory of unitary executive power is the explicit objective. This is part of it. Immigration is important, but is actually a tool to a much larger enterprise and one that is, frankly, revolutionary and quite dangerous.
I'm going to leave it there because it seems there are two Democrats on the show, and I don't want to be the Republican on the show, but it's unfair if we do not have the other view as well, which is the Republican view on this, those who are supporting Trump. Because at the end of the day, a discussion needs to reflect the other side as well. I'm going to leave it there. Glenn Carle and Ray Locker joining me on the show. Well, bottom line, viewers, at the end is unprecedented visuals that came in Los Angeles had three clear messages. One, a very strong political undertone, which was that the new normal in America is here, which is that protests will be clamped down the way one saw, whether it is the deployment of the National Guard or the deployment of the Marines. The second very clear message was that illegal immigration is an issue that is at the heart of the administration, and Trump will continue following it and pursuing it till the very end of his administration or till he feels the objectives have not been met. So this is probably just the beginning. It will continue going forward. And the third and the final message from there is that one can't have different rules when it comes to protests being clamped down democratically or quote unquote undemocratically. There were protests that happened in India 5 years back when Donald Trump in fact had come to India. There was a completely different view that he had taken, his government had taken them. And now there's a completely different view that's being taken by his administration. You want to clamp down on protests? Let that be the new normal everywhere around the world, not just when it suits you.